Okay, objects and phrases, different ways groups of words can function. Okay, so first of all, let's start with objects. Okay, an object is any noun, person, place, or thing, and I should have included this, or idea. Okay, person, place, or thing, or idea that isn't the subject of a sentence. Okay, so any noun that isn't the subject of a sentence is going to function as an object. Okay, now what we're going to talk about specifically, okay, today is something called a direct object. All right, now what it is, a direct object is a noun that receives the action of the verb. Okay? It doesn't do the verb, it receives the action of the verb. Okay? A sentence does not have to have a direct object. All right? So what we talked about previously, okay, we talked about verbs, we've talked about subjects, and guess what? A sentence has to have those. Okay? If you don't have a verb, if you don't have a subject, if you're missing either one, you don't have a sentence. Okay, a sentence has to have a subject and a verb. All right. Now, objects are a little different. Okay. A lot of sentences have them, but they're not required. All right. You don't have to have an object. All right. But a lot of sentences do have them. Okay. So, direct object. Let's take a look at some examples here. Okay. Again, a direct object is a noun that receives the action of the verb. What does that actually mean? What does that look like? Okay. So, here's three examples, and then the fourth one is a non example. Johnny kicked the ball. All right, now, so far we've been asking the question who or what does the action in order to find the subject. Okay, so who or what kicked? Well, Johnny kicked. Johnny's the subject. Okay, but to find direct object, we ask a different question. Now we ask the question, what was kicked? Okay, and the answer to that is the ball. And what that question tells us is what the direct object is. Okay, all right, so who or what did the kicking? Johnny, the subject. Who or what was kicked? The ball, the direct object. The little girl scraped her knee. What was scraped? Knee, direct object. The mailman delivered my letters. What was delivered? Letters, direct object. Okay. If we ask the other question, okay, um, who did the scraping? Okay, little girl, subject. Who did the delivering? The mailman, subject. Okay, so it's important to get our questions straight. Okay, when we ask who did, we're asking the subject question. Okay, when we ask the question, who got, or who did it happen to, okay, we're asking direct object questions. Now, the last one, I just want to point out because this one doesn't have a direct object. The rocket will launch soon. Okay, so again, this just shows, hey, we have a complete sentence, we have a subject, we have a verb, no direct object, still a sentence. Okay, so while direct objects are common, a lot of times whenever we have an action verb, a lot of times we have a direct object, but not every time. Okay, they're not required, they're not always necessary. Okay, any questions about direct objects? Okay. Now, we're starting simple. Okay, one thing that you guys will see soon as we go through this, okay, is that sometimes more complex things, like, for example, a group of words, can function together as a direct object. And we'll see an example of that tomorrow. Okay, possibly today. All right, so the next thing that we're really going to be focusing on is phrases. Okay, a phrase is a group of words that does not include a subject verb pairing. So it can never be a sentence on its own. Okay, a phrase is always part of a sentence. Okay, it always has to be, it's part of a sentence, but it's never just, you can't just put a period at the end of a phrase by itself. And phrases have all sorts of different functions. Okay. Phrases can sometimes function as subjects. Sometimes they can be objects. Sometimes a phrase is an adjective. Okay. Sometimes it's working to describe something. So here's the big thing to understand about phrases. Okay. Phrases, basically look at phrases as a time when a group of words are functioning together just like a single word. Okay. Just like a single word. Now, the different types of phrases that we're going to talk about are these four or five, depending on how you want to differentiate. Okay, technically there's five. Okay, we're going to talk about infinitive phrases, prepositional phrases, participial and participle phrases, and gerund phrases. Okay, now technically there's a few more phrases than this, all right, but these are going to be the core ones that we're going to focus on. The one thing in this grammar unit that we're not going to get real heavy into is adverb stuff. Okay, we're just not really going to cover that a whole lot. Okay, now, key point, and I've already said this, but I want you guys to remember this, especially for this section of the grammar unit. Okay, phrases can function as subjects and as objects, just like a single word. Okay, and they can even function as adjectives. Okay, so our first group, and this is what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover infinitive phrases and prepositional phrases, and then we'll cover the rest of them tomorrow. Okay, so infinitive phrases. We can recognize infinitive phrases easily. Basically, it's any time the word to, is placed in front of an action word. To run, to jump, to think, to laugh, to love. Okay? That's it. That's the signature of an infinitive phrase. Okay? The word to in front of an action word. Okay? Now, a couple of examples. Okay? Because an infinitive phrase can be bigger than two words. All right? It's the word to plus an action word. That's what shows us the beginning of an infinitive phrase. Okay? So, what does a full infinitive phrase look like? It looks something like this. I like to run very fast down hills. Okay, so everything in green there, to run very fast down hills. That's an infinitive phrase. To think deeply about things can trouble one's mind. Okay, to think deeply about things, infinitive phrase. Chelsea tries to get up early in the morning, infinitive phrase. Okay, so an infinitive phrase includes to, an action word, and anything else associated with the action word. Okay? Anything else associated with the action word. Okay? For example, in the last one, Chelsea tries to get up early in the morning. Okay? Up early in the morning is associated with the action of get. Okay? It tells us when she gets. Okay? Bottom line, though, with infinitive phrases, the to plus the action word always marks, that's a marker to you guys that, oh, okay, all right, boom, there's an infinitive phrase. There's the beginning of it. Okay, now, one thing to note about the word to. If to is followed by a word that is not an action word, then it's going to be a prepositional phrase rather than infinitive. And we're going to talk about prepositional phrases here in just a second. Okay? So if you see something like this, to the store, to this school, to my house, all right, we see the word to, but it's not followed by an action word. That's a sign to us that, oh, okay, not infinitive, prepositional. Okay, infinitive is always going to be to plus an action word. Okay, but if you see to and then something like this, all right, that tells us, hey, it's prepositional. Now, there's lots of other prepositions besides the words to. Okay, the reason I'm focusing on this is because it's one of those words where it can kind of fall into two classes. It can be prepositional, it can be infinitive. Okay, so lots of other prepositions. Talk about this next. Okay, prepositional phrases. A prepositional phrase begins with a preposition and ends with a noun. Now, hopefully, you're a little familiar with the prepositions after going through that worksheet. Okay. So again, a prepositional phrase begins with a preposition and ends with a noun. Basically, the first noun you come across that shows, hey, boom, that's the end of the prepositional phrase. This noun is referred to as the object of the preposition. Okay, the object of the preposition. Now, for those of you that maybe didn't get a chance to get to the worksheet yet, what is a preposition? Okay, a preposition is a word that shows a relationship between two other nouns. This relationship is one of time or location. Okay, and one thing I like is I like how the worksheet explains it when it says that a preposition asks the what question. Okay, the what question. Like if I like the prepositional phrase to the store. Okay, if I said I'm going to the store. Okay, well if I deleted store, okay, I'm going to, and I just stopped there, you'd be like, what? You're going to what? Okay, to the store. Okay, the object of the preposition answers that what question. Okay, so prepositions show a relationship of time or location between two other nouns. All right, so we take a look at an example here. We saw the movie after the previews. All right, well, our subject and verb are just we saw. Okay, we saw. Now, let's look at the two other nouns that are left, movie and previews. All right, what word is showing a relationship between movie and previews? Any guesses? Okay, after. All right, after is showing a relationship between movie and previews, and it's showing us a relationship of time. Okay, we saw the movie after the preview. The movie came after the previews, relationship of time. Okay, now the actual prepositional phrase is this: after the previews. The preposition starts the beginning of it, okay, and then the first noun we come across ends it. There's the prepositional phrase, after the previews. The rabbit burrowed under the tree. Okay, so again, let's just get our verb and subject knocked out. Okay, so our verb is going to be burrowed. Okay, who or what burrowed? The rabbit burrowed. So rabbit burrowed. There's our subject and verb. And look at what we're left with. Under the tree. Okay, so we have to ask, what's the relationship here? Okay, what word is showing a relationship between two other things? Well, in this case, the preposition is showing a relationship between the subject and something else. Okay, it's showing a relationship between rabbit and what? The tree. That's it. Okay, and this is a preposition of location. Okay, where is the rabbit in relationship to the tree? Under the tree. Okay, under the tree. So there's our prepositional phrase right there. Okay, now, common examples of prepositional phrases. Okay, if we look at this list, okay, we can just kind of highlight what the phrase is and what the what the preposition is and what the object of the preposition is. And this is something where just the more you see these, the more familiar it gets, okay, and you just learn to recognize them quicker. Okay, so inside of the house. All right, now notice sometimes that we can have two prepositions right next to each other and they're kind of working together as one. That's pretty common. Okay? Both inside and of can be prepositions on their own, or they can work together. So inside of, house is the object. Outside of the house, same thing. Around town, down by the river. Okay? Prepositions, and then the underlined part, there's our object of the preposition. Near the grocery store, on First Street, with the class, without your phone, above the clouds, below the ocean, before breakfast, during lunch, after dinner. Okay? Preposition, object of preposition. Now, they can be short. Okay? Prepositional phrases can be short. From the country. Okay? Short phrase. They can be long. From the open and beautiful country. Okay? And sometimes they can be strung together, one prepositional phrase after the other, and sometimes you can create long monstrosities such as this. From the open and beautiful country of France, on the continent of Europe. Okay? Whole bunch of prepositional phrases working together. Now, I don't necessarily recommend writing like this, okay? But just recognize that it can happen. All right. Now, this is the last slide for today, okay? All the prepositions. Now, here's the thing. You guys already have this list, okay? The worksheet that you guys worked through, don't turn that in. Keep that, add that to your notes, okay? Add that to your notes. You guys have this list already, okay? So no need to copy this down, all right? You guys have got this, okay? All right. We'll pick up. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Okay, one last thing to add to your notes real quick. Prepositional phrases are often incorporated into other phrases, okay? This is a key point to remember, okay? They're often incorporated into other kinds of phrases, okay? So if you look at the infinitive phrases that we talked about, okay, this example, to think deeply about things can trouble one's mind. So that infinitive phrase, to think deeply about things, okay, it has a prepositional phrase in it, okay, about things. So what you have to remember, okay, is that if a prepositional phrase is part of another phrase, okay, we're just going to look at it as being part of that other phrase, okay? So we have an infinitive phrase here that has a smaller prepositional one inside it, okay? But overall, we're still going to look at it as an infinitive phrase, okay, in the big picture. All right. That's it for today.